Itoki was an ugly, lonely loser who saw a ninja spying on him in the distance, and was stalked every day by a mysterious ninja girl called Kusetsu. However, Itoki decided to run away from her and began parkouring around town, and when Truck-kun came to claim his next isekai victim, Itoki committed the greatest anime taboo, and backflipped over Truck-kun to escape his wrath. The following morning, Kusetsu was back to tailing him, but when he got to his locker, he found a love letter inside. And for the rest of the day, he continued thinking about the letter until he met the girl. She introduced herself as Satomi, but as Itoki tried introducing himself, she told him that she had always known him and thought he was the coolest guy for back-flipping over a truck, so she asked him to come over because her parents won't be home. Inside her room, Itoki looked around uncomfortably, but Satomi walked in with a drink for the both of them and began taking off her clothes, causing Itoki to freak out. She forced him to lay down, begging him to develop plot with her, but as she drew closer to kiss him, our man fumbled the bag and decided to remain an anime protagonist forever. However, as he began looking around the room, hoping she was merely messing around, he looked under the bed and saw two glowing eyes from a ninja suit staring at him. As he fell back, his face was sliced with a knife, and 3 ninjas flew into the room. With Satomi looking to slash his throat, a knife flew into the room, exploding into a smoke bomb. Kusetsu appeared in the smoke, pulling Itoki with her, and as she began kicking off the ninjas, she threw him out the window. Luckily, he fell into a canopy and was rescued by a lady. As the car sped away, Itoki began screaming, but the lady told him to be silent. She was Riha, and she worked with Itoki's mother at the store. After realizing who they were, Itoki wondered where they were going, so Kozo said a place far away from the city. However, a jeep drove into their way, and as they sped across the road, the jeep spewed dust on their window and laid spikes into their tires, sending them crashing into the walls. As Itoki woke up, Riaya pulled him out of the car and told him to return down the road they came from. As they continued fighting off the opposing force, Itoki began running away, wondering how the hell he got into this mess. After running all day and night, he realized that he was lost and couldn't find his way back. Suddenly, the lights went out in the streets and in the whole city, leaving Itoki wandering in the darkness. But luckily, a policeman appeared behind him. As Itoki tried repeating his story, a ninja appeared behind the man and sliced off his throat. Itoki looked horrified and started backing away, but he bumped into another ninja, who smacked him into a wall. With Itoki gagged and tied up, he closed his eyes, ready to give up. However, Takasada appeared before them, smoking a cigarette. When he told the slain police that he would slice his head off, the man swiftly stood up. Apparently, he was one of them. The lights turned back on in the street, and in a flash, Takasada teleported beside Itoki. The ninjas jumped back in fear, but began charging toward him, as he transformed into a ninja of his own. After a few hours, Takasada screamed for Itoki to wake up, and as he did, he began wondering where they were. Takasada told him that they were at their family home. Inside the home, Itoki saw everyone bowing to the ground as his mother walked into the room. He looked shocked to see her, and when he called her mother, she told him to call her Chief. She looked cold, and the sight of her made Itoki afraid. Soon, she began telling him that they are a ninja clan from the Iga village, who have lived in peace for decades by using the store as a front for their activities. However, the Kuga clan, renowned for being the most powerful clan in the world, were looking to destroy their village and annihilate him, since he was next in line to rule. After saying these words, she asked him to become a ninja and to help fight for their village, but Itoki still would not accept, so Takasada began dragging him outside. While outside, Takasada told him that his choices were to either become a ninja or become sushi for the Kuga clan. As Itoki screamed his frustration at both options, his uncle wondered if he would rather be sent off to a faraway country until a new successor was chosen. However, Itoki was afraid of staying away from his mother, so as he began crying, he finally agreed to become the next leader. Meanwhile, in a faraway cabin, Satomi and a strange man realized that Itoki had been taken away to the Iga village, so they decided to wait for their next opportunity to eliminate him. The following morning, as Itoki woke up, he saw Riha waiting outside his room and was relieved knowing he was safe. After a few hours, she showed him a video of a ninja school where they were hoping to send him, but Itoki was surprised that it looked like a regular school. Riha told him that his exam into the school was only in a few days, causing him to scream in shock. A few days later, Itoki returned home, and while having dinner with his mother, he decided to ask about the death of his father, since he was the former leader of their clan. But Yumika thought it was best not digging into the past, and told him not to think about it. The following morning, Takasada and Kusetsu arrived to pick him up for his exam. However, Itoki thought he was not ready, and started wondering if he should practice some fire breathing techniques. So Takasada began teasing him, and called his cigarette a fire technique. Kusetsu told him that there were no fire breathing techniques, but Itoki thought she was trying to trick him. A few hours later, they arrived at a mall for Itoki's exam. And as they walked inside, Itoki thought it looked like a regular store, so Kusetsu told him a secret code for the attendant. And after telling her, she led them to a secret passage. As they went through the passage, they arrived at a room full of mean-looking faces, but a few minutes later, the teacher arrived, telling them that their test was a hide-and-seek challenge, and that they had to find each other within a few minutes. When it was time to begin, Itoki realized that his partner for the exam was Satomi, who was disguised in a wig. After she walked into the store, the teacher told Itoki to begin his search for her, and soon, a random man began walking towards him with a knife, but Takasada pulled him into an aisle, wringing his neck, and pretended helping him around the store. While Itoki was afraid that his time was running out, Kusetsu told him that a group of ninjas were trying to kill him, so he suggested running away, but she knew he would fail the exam if he left. As a little girl began walking towards them with a balloon, it burst, with a kunai flying through to Itoki, but Kusetsu blocked it. Satomi smiled, and as Kusetsu looked for her, she became invincible and vanished. Kusetsu told Itoki to be watchful, and began running off to look for her. After a minute, she arrived in a passage and found Satomi waiting for her. As she charged towards her, Kusetsu transformed to a ninja and dodged her attacks, kneeing her ribs and throwing her a kick. Kusetsu went into a new passage, looking for her, but Satomi became visible, flying towards her with a slash. However, two other ninjas jumped into the corridor, trapping her inside, and allowing Satomi run off. Meanwhile, Itoki was waiting in fear, and as Satomi began rushing towards him, he sprayed the area, and rang the fire alarm, causing everyone to run out. As it began showering, Satomi became visible, but as she drew her knife, she charged towards him, but was kicked back by Kusetsu. Immediately, two agents caught her, and as they began taking her away, Itoki thought of touching her and passing the test. But another agent told him that the test was already over. A few hours later, Takasada told Itoki that he failed the exam, and would have to hide until the following year. But a moment later, after he received a call, he told Itoki that he's been accepted into the school, leaving him shocked. After a few weeks, Itoki was ready to leave for the school, and as he traveled through the city, he thought he might never return home again. Soon, they arrived at a train station, and Takasada waved him goodbye. A train stopped before them, and as they traveled in it, Itoki noticed the beautiful scenery around them. Arriving at the school, Itoki met a beautiful girl, who introduced herself as Ryoko, but after a while she began leaving with her friends. Itoki began waving goodbye, but Kusetsu kicked him from behind, telling him to walk. After a few minutes in the school, Itoki noticed that Kusetsu had vanished from his side, and as he began calling for her, a young group of students bumped into him. They were about knocking out his tooth when a girl hurried to him, pretending to know him, and pulled him away from the boys. She thought he was a new student, and advised him to avoid the boys like a plague. She introduced herself as Kairi, and asked to be his friend as they shook hands. And after a few more minutes, Kairi met Itoki in class, so he decided to introduce her to Kusetsu. As they tried getting their meal tickets, Kairi moved Itoki's hand to a ninja meal, which turned out to be a little piece of food. Itoki looked across the dining hall, and saw the boys he had earlier met, so Kairi told him that they were from the Kuga clan, the same clan that were trying to kill him. Suddenly, one of the boys stood up from the table, wondering if Itoki came to fight. His name was Himura, and as he continued screaming at them, Kairi immediately hurried away. However, another boy told him to be silent. He was Suzaku, and he was the only son of the most powerful member of the Kuga clan. He said that Itoki's family murdered their leader, so he was looking to get his revenge on him. That evening, Itoki, Kusetsu, and Kairi arrived at their dormitory, and as they walked inside, Kairi advised Itoki to avoid Suzaku as much as he could. That night in his room, Kusetsu came in to tell him that she would always protect him from everyone, even if it made him uncomfortable. By the following day, an instructor told the students that they would be learning how to use ninja suits and cores, but Itoki had never heard those before, so he watched Kusetsu activate her suit, before activating his own. When the teacher told them to travel across the island for their prize, the students swiftly ran off, jumping down the mountain. However, Itoki discovered that he could not move in the suit, but Kusetsu decided to ignore him and began running off. Luckily, Ryoko found him and started moving her hands around his bone until he could move again. She told him that his suit was too tight, and as she pushed him off, he began running, but after a moment, he fell to the ground. Meanwhile, Kusetsu and Suzaku were climbing to a rooftop, but Suzaku suddenly flew towards her and hit her with a kick. But as she blocked, she began falling, but luckily caught the wall again. As soon as Suzaku claimed his prize, Kusetsu also claimed her own. Itoki and Ryoko were running across a bridge when they saw Suzaku running towards Itoki to attack him. As he jumped, flying towards him with a blow, Kusetsu punched him away, but he began running again. After running across the bridge, Itoki found a broken core and decided to find who it was, but realized that it was Kairi, who was already beaten up and her prize stolen from her, so Itoki decided to help her get it back. As a group of bullies cornered another student, Itoki approached them, demanding for Kairi's prize. When he realized that they were never going to return it, he rushed towards the leader, but he flipped over him, causing Itoki to bump into the wall. The leader knocked Itoki around and nearly destroyed his core, but he swiftly rolled away. Itoki rushed towards him again, and as he grabbed him, the boy pulled his hair and threw him away. He stepped on Itoki's head, ready to squash it, but their master appeared before them and told them to continue their task. Before long, Itoki returned the prize to Kairi as he was able to steal it back before getting thrown away, and as he helped her to the bridge, they found Ryoko returning. Itoki asked her to help Kairi return, and soon hurried to finish his task. However, by the time he arrived, he found the master eating what was left of the prizes. The next day, as Itoki went to get his meal card, a group of bullies threatened to beat him up, but Kusetsu decided to stay by his side for support. As they tried eating, Kairi and Ryoko joined them at the table. A week later in class, the teacher told the students about a test they had to take in proving their abilities as a ninja, but Itoki didn't know what she was talking about. So after the class, he asked Ryoko to teach him how to use weapons, as he thought he would have to defend himself in battle. However, Kairi walked in on them and told him that the test was to sneak into her office and steal the answers from her vault. That afternoon, while Ryoko was showing Itoki a ninja device, she began telling him about her dream to continue as a ninja forever, but her father wanted her to become a dutiful wife after leaving the school. This made her sad, and she thought about never returning home again. In Itoki's room, later at night, he wondered why he was chosen to be the next leader of his clan, as he thought he didn't deserve to be in the position. So Kusetsu told him that the clan was only concerned about passing on leadership to whoever was next, and it didn't matter if the leader couldn't change his own diaper. The following day, while Itoki and his friends were plotting a way to break into the teacher's office, two boys asked to join their parade. Having seen Itoki take on the bullies during their task, they thought he was the perfect role model, so Itoki decided to accept them into the group. At school that night, Itoki and his friends snuck through the corridor, heading for the teacher's office. Ryoko gave him a drone to spy at her, and as he threw it, it flew into the office, looking at the vault and keys. But as it returned, it smashed into a glass, alerting the teacher. Immediately, the students began flying out of the window, but Itoki's hook came off, and he began falling, but was caught midair and pulled up before the teacher saw him. When the teacher began chasing Kairi, she threw a smoke bomb and ran off, screaming in fear. Inside the office, Itoki and Ryoko discovered that the key to the safe had vanished, and before long, a group of bullies began beating up Itoki's friend, so Kusetsu hurried to save him. Afraid of getting caught by the teacher, Ryoko decided to hack into the safe, and was finally able to steal the answers. However, the following day in class, as they prepared to take the test, they discovered that the answers were totally false, and they were basically screwed. After the test, Himura and his gang laughed at them, because they had switched the answers in the vault before they arrived. The next day, Itoki and his friends began cleaning the school as a punishment for failing the test, but Kusetsu suddenly pulled him aside, and told him that there was a mole among them, who was working with Suzaku and his friends, and had switched the answers in the vault to screw them up. At these words, Itoki began staring at everyone's faces in shock. The following day in class, the teacher told them about their exam in the coming weeks, which were often extreme activities that could lead to their deaths. Itoki realized what her words meant and immediately became afraid. So after the class, he wondered if he could skip the exam, since more than half the students were trying to eliminate him. But Ryoko told him that he would get kicked out of the school for being a disgusting weakling. While walking through the corridor, Itoki and Kusetsu came across Suzaku, who promised to kill him in the exam, but they merely stared at him as he walked away. In the dormitory that night, when his friends decided to create a plan for their exam, Itoki told them that he was going to bed. With a spy in their midst, all their plans would basically go up in smoke. However, as Itoki and Kusetsu began to leave, Kairi hurried to him and gave him a special mask that would change his face whenever he wanted. She thought he would need it in the exam and forced it into his hand even after he declined it. When Itoki and Kusetsu came into his room, she told him that she would annihilate Suzaku during the exam. But Itoki was worried that it would be too dangerous for her. However, when she looked determined to carry out her duty, reminding him that she was his protector, he swiftly left the room. That night, while walking through the street, Itoki came across the master and was invited for tea. As they drank on a rooftop, the master began telling him about his father. He had met him several years ago and thought Itoki was just like him. However, Itoki was in no mood for a conversation, so he thanked him for the tea and left. The following day, while Itoki was looking for Kusetsu, she jumped out of the tree before him and told him to steal the core from her suit. As he lunged at her, she dodged him, but he lunged again and got smacked to the ground. Kusetsu thought he had no skill and dared him to steal the core from her since he was too much of a beta to take it. So he started running away, as Kusetsu had instructed him to do. After their practice, Kusetsu showed Itoki a map, explaining their plans for the exam and drawing a circle around it. When she was done, she squeezed the paper and threw it in the trash before pulling him outside. When the day arrived, the students waited in old abandoned buildings until a great sound went off, signaling the start of the exam. Kusetsu began running out, and soon, a group of Kuga ninjas arrived, looking for Itoki. They kicked the door in, but as they rushed inside, they were hit by a powerful gas and began to pass out. Itoki and Kusetsu had set the trap, and were pleased that their plans were falling into place. With only one survivor left, Itoki confronted him, and realized that he was the spy in their group, who had led them here through the map Kusetsu threw out. However, he soon began apologizing, but now, he wasn't sure what to do, as he was beginning to feel sorry for him. After a few minutes, Himari arrived, looking for Itoki, but the boy tried sneaking up on him. As he lunged for his hand, he missed and was elbowed to the ground, narrowly dodging getting stabbed. When he stood up, the mask on his face cracked, revealing he was Itoki, disguised as the boy. However, Himura began smiling, and as he took off his own mask, he revealed he was Suzaku all along. Meanwhile, Kusetsu found Suzaku alone by himself, but he also began taking off his mask and revealed he was Himura. Apparently, they had switched places while pretending to be each other and were hoping to keep Kusetsu away from Suzaku. Kuga ninjas attacked her, but she kicked and blocked them away before drawing power from her core and slashing them off. Himura realized that they couldn't beat her, so he detonated a bomb, blowing up everyone. At the same time, Itoki was running from Suzaku when he was kicked to the floor and flung backwards. As Itoki threw a kunai at him, he caught it and nailed him in the leg, wounding him. He pulled him up and punched his face, but he began running again. So Suzaku ran after him, hungry for revenge, and narrowly missed stabbing him, as Itoki fell through the trees and continued running. Before long, he was kicked to the ground, and a kunai was thrown in his back, before the deranged youth drew his knife and flew to stab him. But he missed as Itoki rolled away, determined to leave. He thought his death would awaken more desire for revenge, and soon began running again. However, the nutcase was certain that killing Itoki would bring him some weird peace, and his blood would make for some good stew, so he ran after him. Itoki was breathless as he ran, afraid and drained, but as Suzaku jumped on him, he created smoke and vanished. Drones began flying towards him, but he blocked them all. However, Itoki took advantage of his distraction and swiftly slashed his core. With his suit having lost its power, Suzaku realized that it was too late for him to fight back. But Itoki had no thought of killing him, and as a blaring sound went off, announcing the end of the exam, Itoki passed out on the ground. Several days later, he woke up in a hospital, with his friends all staring at him, happy to see him alive. But Kusetsu immediately passed out from exhaustion, having waited at his bed all day and night. A few weeks later, they visited Itoki's family home for the holiday, and Itoki showed Ryoko and Kairi to a room where they could stay. However, as soon as he left, Kairi began snooping around the house, looking to find their secret weapons, before summoning a little bird. A moment later, the bird arrived in Suzaku's home, revealing a secret message from Kairi about Itoki's home. Meanwhile, Itoki and his family arrived in a hospital to see Riha's husband, who had been unconscious for several years after an accident. He had worked for Itoki's mother as a ninja in their clan, and she felt responsible for his current state. That evening, Itoki and his mother cleared a gravesite. This was where his father was buried, and they came here every year in honor of his memory. And although Itoki could hardly remember him, he thought that he must have been a good man since everyone spoke so kindly of him. Soon, Itoki's mother began telling him about his father, who was murdered while trying to protect the village from invaders. She thought that the Kuga clan were responsible, and hoped that Itoki would not be killed like his father. The following day, Itoki and his friends arrived at the store to buy items for the family home. However, he soon discovered that everyone was a ninja for the clan. Later that day, as they arrived at the river, hoping to catch some fish, Itoki saw the girls in stunning outfits and began stuttering at the sight of them. Kusetsu walked into the water, and as she spotted a fish, she threw it right into Itoki's bucket. And in a few minutes, they all began fishing. While fishing, Kairi began telling Itoki about her clan, and that they were considered irrelevant by other clans, since there were only a few of them left, and without a village of their own. When Itoki noticed that she was beginning to look sad, he encouraged her to feel happy about herself. After all, he wasn't half the ninja she was. Soon, they all arrived at the family home with their buckets filled up, and as they moved around with food, preparing for a feast, Takasada appeared behind Itoki. He had been away for some time, and was happy to return home again. And since it was Itoki's first time at the feast, he decided to tell him how it started. After his father died, his mother had made the hard decision of becoming the clan's new leader. Her decision saved the village from breaking apart, and now everyone loved her and would die for her in battle. He hoped Itoki would learn from her and make babies with Kusetsu. That evening, as they enjoyed the feast, Takasada began singing, having drunk too much, so Kusetsu smacked his head, putting him straight to sleep. Itoki and Yumika began to leave the room for a conversation elsewhere, so Kairi decided to eavesdrop on them. However, a man stopped her and began talking about Itoki, and that he thought she was the greatest saint in the world after Pope Francis, and somehow, his words made her repent from her sins. Inside the room, Yumika began telling Itoki all their secrets, and why they were the most powerful ninja clan in the world. She wondered if he was ready to become the greatest ninja of them all, so he told her that he was. A week later, Kozo hurried to tell Itoki and his friends that the academy was closed down, as a lot of students were mysteriously vanishing. Later that day, they were informed about a ninja committee meeting, which only happened once in several decades to decide the future of every clan. And by the following day, Yumika began to leave for the meeting, promising to return as soon as it was over. At the meeting, Yumika, Takasada, and Kozo met the leaders of other clans, and as Hayato, a police of the committee, began. They soon discovered that a few clan leaders were missing from the meeting. They were clans who supported Yumika and her village, and as she began wondering what happened to them, she thought the Kuga clan were responsible for their disappearance. Hayato said that the Kuga clan were looking to start a war by annihilating every ninja clan in the world, and stealing their resources for themselves. And since the committee meetings were meant to arrest leaders causing chaos, he decided to arrest the clan's leader himself. The other clans stood in support of his arrest, but a man suddenly walked into the room, introducing himself as Genji, another police of the committee, and began accusing Yumika of eliminating the slain Kuga leader. He showed a video of the murder, and concluded that a member of her clan committed the atrocity, immediately demanding for her arrest. But Takasada stood in his way, ready to slay him in that instant. However, Yumika stopped him, and began to follow them. That evening, after Itoki was informed about her arrest, he thought he was better off taking her place. And by the following day, with the villagers all gathered together, Itoki declared himself as their new leader. However, the next day, while they were waiting for news on Yumika, Takasada showed up at the door and summoned Itoki and Kusetsu for a private meeting. Hayato had been killed, and Genji, who arrested Yumika at the meeting and worked for the Kuga clan, was threatening to annihilate her, as the Kuga clan were determined to discover their secrets. At a meeting later that day, the villagers suggested rescuing Yumika before she was executed, but others were afraid of riling the committee. Takasada thought the committee were shit for taking sides with the Kuga clan, and offered to slay them all in their sleep, but the others were afraid of starting a war. Suddenly, they all began staring at Itoki, waiting to hear his decision. However, when he continued staring like a lost, confused boy trapped in the woods, Kusetsu flew at him with a knife. Having seen enough of his stupidity, she thought that annihilating him would be better for everyone. After all, he was good for nothing. Since Yumika had adopted her when she was a little girl, and raised her like her own daughter, she had become her only family. Kusetsu was determined to save her from those fuckers and was looking to make the decision herself if Itoki was too soft for it. However, Itoki decided to man up, and as she released him, he began coughing, and soon agreed to rescue Yumika. It was a decision that would cast them into a war with the committee. Meanwhile, in the Kuga clan base, Suzaku arrived into the office of the Kuga leader, having been informed by Kairi on the plans to rescue Yumika from her cell. He thought that this was their perfect opportunity to annihilate everyone in the village, as Kusetsu and Takasada were both away for the rescue, and swiftly declared his desire to lead the raid. In Itoki's home, Kairi told him about news in the city on a attack that was making everyone run home, but they had no idea what it meant. Right then, Kozo hurried in, telling them that the Kuga clan were coming to eliminate everyone in the village, and that the news around the city was a mere diversion from the nearing attack. So a moment later, Riha opened a secret door in the room that would momentarily keep them safe, and with Kusetsu gone, Itoki looked to be in the soup. Meanwhile, Kusetsu and Takasada arrived at the prison to rescue Yumika, and after pretending to lose their way, Kusetsu swiftly put the security to sleep. Immediately, they switched into their ninja suits and ran through the prison before Kusetsu kicked down the window. She threw a smoke bomb as the prison guards charged at them, and the both of them blew past the security, blocking their attacks and knocking them to the ground. Soon, they arrived at Yumika's cell, and after telling her that Itoki ordered for her rescue, Kusetsu kicked down the door. However, just as they hurried outside, they came across the scumbag and a new set of security. Takasada told Kusetsu to rescue Yumika, so she caused a smoke bomb and vanished with the distraction, as Takasada impaled the men before they could run after them. Meanwhile, in Itoki's village, a Niga ninja tried stabbing a robot, but another came flying at him as he narrowly dodged and watched it jump out of sight. As another fighter faced off with two bots, one jumped behind him and impaled his knee, but he stabbed it. Another flew at him with a kunai, but it stopped and began jumping back into the darkness, before it soon killed the last one. In Itoki's home, they discovered that the Kuga clan were fighting the Iga ninjas with robots. The enemies were endless, and Riha thought it was only a matter of time before the robots breached their defense and found their way inside. Itoki suggested withdrawing everyone into the family home, but Riha thought that would be shooting themselves in the foot. As they began wondering why the robots weren't attacking with all their forces, Kairi asked to see one of the robots. A moment later, soon laid a robot on the floor before them, and Ryoko began unscrewing it. When she was done, she discovered that the bots were running on low battery and could only function for half an hour. Itoki realized that blowing up the fucking chargers was the only way to win the battle. As soon as Riha picked up the location for the chargers, he decided to take the risk of destroying them. Ryoko decided to follow him since her father created the robots. Kairi, however, told them that she wasn't going with them since she had to play spy for Suzaku. Meanwhile, at the prison, Takasada had slain all the security and was looking to slay Genji. But another team of the committee arrived, led by a new official, Shioni. She had worked with Hayato before his murder and discovered that Genji slayed him. She commanded her team to arrest him, but as two of the men flew at him, he caught their hands midair, determined not to get caught. However, Takasada grabbed him from behind and put his ass to sleep before walking away. At the same time, Kusetsu and Yumika arrived on a mountain and discovered that the village was under attack by the Kuga clan. When Kusetsu thought that they were better off staying away, Yumika told her that she wished to fight for the village. Meanwhile, inside the village, Itoki and Ryoko found the chargers, and Itoki suggested blowing them up in that instant. With the majority of the Kuga forces away at the moment, he thought that this was their only chance at destroying these sons of bitches, so Ryoko gave him the bombs she made that were sure to blow everything up to smithereens. They thought about putting the bombs on the chargers, but now wondered how they would get close enough before getting spotted. So Ryoko decided to show him a bomb that would shut down the robots for a few seconds. When they were ready, Itoki rushed out of the bush towards the machines, and Ryoko threw up the bomb, causing the bots to freeze in that instant. Before long, Itoki was kicked back by Suzaku, who was looking to destroy him like in the exam. Immediately, Itoki threw a disc into the air and Ryoko took Suzaku down as he began running again, looking to put the bomb on the charger. However, the robots all came alive and caught him immediately along with Ryoko. One machine took the bomb from him and suddenly began running towards the charger, but Himura ran after him, and as he tackled him to the ground, he discovered that the bomb was already on it. Utilizing his chance, Itoki directed the disc, smashing into the bomb and blowing up everything in its path. A moment later, Ryoko helped Itoki to his feet, and as they tried leaving, he returned to the person lying on the ground. And as her mask broke, they discovered that she was Kairi. She had pretended to be a bot, and helped getting the bomb on the charger as her way of helping them for her betrayal. As the bots began coming alive, Itoki carried Kairi in his arms and began running off. In Itoki's home, Yumika and Kusetsu arrived, happy to see everyone safe. But suddenly, Kusetsu began moving around and screaming like she was in a terrible pain. Before long, she held a kunai to Yumika's throat, threatening to kill her and demanding to know where their secret core was hidden. She led Yumika into a room and shoved her to the floor as her eyes glowed like she was possessed by some evil spirit. She pointed her kunai at Yumika, but she stood bravely before her and took a slash to the face. However, she walked closer to her, putting the kunai aside and taking off Kusetsu's mask to realize that she was biting hard on her lip, fighting to be free from the control over her mind. Yumika thought something strange was happening to her, but everyone thought she was another spy and betrayer for the Kuga clan. As Yumika held her close, Kusetsu began screaming again, fighting to regain control over her mind, and trying to call her mother. Suddenly, she fell, and Yumika hurried to her, but as she tried waking her up, Kusetsu stabbed her with the kunai, and killed her on the spot. Itoki and his friends arrived, and as he ran through the house, screaming for his mother, he found her lying on the floor, and hurried to her, but was too late. Immediately, Kozo took down Kusetsu, wondering why she killed Yumika, but the girl couldn't answer as she didn't know what came over her. Soon, Takasada ran in, shocked to find Yumika dead, and as he watched Itoki cry over his mother, he thought his worst fear had come to pass. The next day, Riha told Itoki that he must take on the full responsibility of being the clan's leader. With Yumika dead, the village were waiting for his decision on their war with the Kuga clan. However, Itoki could only remember how his mother had died, how the villagers had tried to save her, and how his frustration had caused him to scream at Takasada. That evening, with everyone gathered together, Itoki put his thumb in the contract and became the true leader of the clan. However, he wasn't happy, and as the villagers began demanding for retaliation on the Kuga clan, he merely stared at them. One villager thought Kusetsu was the greatest betrayer in the world for killing Yumika and deserved to have her head chopped off like a fish, but Itoki was terrified at the mere thought of it. She had been his protector for several years and had saved his ass from trouble more times than he could remember. Soon, the villagers began suggesting an all-out war on the Kuga clan and annihilating them like a sack of shit. But Itoki was too chicken to decide, so he asked for another meeting after his mother was buried. A few days later, Ryoko and Kairi told him that they were returning home, but as Itoki thought of not seeing them again, he knew that he would be very lonely. The following day, as they were leaving, Ryoko told him to protect Kusetsu, as she was convinced that some weird experiment took place in her mind. However, Itoki wasn't certain that he could save her from her fate. As they left, Takasada summoned Itoki inside and led him into a separate house where he found Kusetsu tied up. Takasada told him that she had been trying to annihilate herself since she regained control of her mind. He decided to ask her what she remembered, but even she couldn't remember anything that happened. She had heard a terrible noise inside her head that caused her to lose control, but she thought it was a dream. As she began crying, she asked Itoki to eliminate her, but Takasada told her that she was important to them. Soon, he began telling her that her father was the leader of the Kuga clan, and that she was hypnotized when she was a little girl, before getting abandoned on the street. The Kuga leader had hoped to spy on the Iga village by having Yumika adopt her, and had waited for several years before killing her. Kusetsu wondered why she wasn't kicked out all those years ago, so Takasada told her that Yumika loved her as her own daughter. At these words, Kusetsu began crying and blamed herself for Yumika's death, but Takasada thought that someone else may have snuck into the room and murdered her. And as she continued crying, Itoki held her close to him. A few days later, the villagers attended Yumika's burial, and later that night, Itoki was alone as he continued staring at her photograph. Soon, Suzaku appeared behind him and began walking to her shrine. As he paid his last respects, he wondered if Itoki finally understood his grief. And as he began walking away, he called him a chicken, so Itoki punched his face. But he lunged at him, and they crashed through the window. Itoki wondered why he had a crazy obsession for revenge, since even he wasn't desiring revenge for his mother's death. But Suzaku only cared to see their village crumble to dust, and swiftly pushed him off, telling him that his bitter and rotten soul was beyond redemption. The next day, the villagers told Itoki about a letter from the Kuga clan, who were demanding for their secret core. They wanted Itoki to grant their request for war, but he still wouldn't, and asked for a few more days to consider his decision. That night, he returned to his mother's shrine, sad and confused, wondering if he was the person for the job, as he was caught between the difficult choice of protecting the village and sending them off to war. After a few days, Itoki arrived for another meeting with the clan, and informed them that he would be passing their secret core to the Kuga clan, and would demand for half their resources in return. However, the villagers thought that he had lost his f***ing mind and needed a long nap. But Itoki told them that his decision was the only way to protect the village and the people, and was looking to stick with it. He threatened to kick out everyone that weren't in support and began walking away. But after a few days, Shioni told him that the Kuga clan were unwilling to share their own resources and were looking to attack the village again for the core. Meanwhile, Kairi arrived at Ryoko's home to find it burned to the ground by the Kuga clan. Both their villages had been incinerated, and Kairi had nowhere else to go. Inside the home, she found Ryoko, who was working on a bomb to blow up the f***ing Kuga clan. But Kairi thought that she was better off settling down and finding a husband. However, she soon began crying, sad to be the only one left in her village. With nothing more to lose, Kairi decided to tell her that she had been spying for the Kuga clan and aided their attack on the Iga village. She thought that she was the greatest sinner in the world and also began crying. However, Ryoko thought that she was worth being redeemed and decided to embrace her. In Itoki's village, the clan demanded for his resignation, calling him a baby who couldn't pick his own nose. But he was determined to be the alpha male and called his position his birthright. That night, the clan gathered outside, ready to abduct Itoki and forcefully kick him out. But while they were waiting for Kozo's orders, Ria began running towards Itoki's room and soon realized that it was empty. As she started reading the paper on his desk, Kozo entered the room, wondering why she left her position outside. And in that moment, he realized that she killed Yumika and intended to end Itoki as well. Immediately, she tried slashing at him, but he blocked and smacked her in the face. Itoki had earlier told him about a spy in their clan who had murdered Yumika and wanted Kusetsu taking responsibility for her murder. So in an attempt to discover the spy, he had decided to play the role of a rogue king. Kozo began wondering why Ria had decided to betray her own village, so she told him that the Kuga leader had promised to awaken her husband with a great sorcery, and immediately ended herself. At the same time, Itoki, Kusetsu, and Takasada began walking to the Kuga base. Since the Kuga clan were heading to destroy their own village, they hoped to destroy theirs in return. However, Itoki wanted to be the sacrificial lamb and asked Takasada and Kusetsu to return to the village, but they wouldn't listen to him. They thought that they would also make some fine mutton and were determined to support him. Inside the Kuga base, a receptionist pressed a buzzer as they walked in, alerting the security, but Itoki merely asked to speak with the Kuga leader. Soon, they were surrounded by robots, and Kusetsu flew into the air, kicking the machines, and Itoki slashed them. As a bomb went off, Ryoko appeared in the smoke, knocking down a bot, and Kairi slashed another. They came to support him, and were looking to bring down the Kuga clan, so Kairi decided to apologize for spying on his village, and swiftly ran off. Ryoko punched and kicked off the enemies, and as two flew at her, Kairi kicked them back, allowing Itoki and his clan to run up the stairs. Soon, they came across 3 enemies, and 100 robots jumped in their way, so Itoki drew the power from his suit and flashed through them, slaying them in an instant. However, he fell from exhaustion as the core burned up his strength. Immediately, the Kuga clan fired ropes at him, but Takasada got in the way, causing Kusetsu to create smoke and rescue him. Swiftly, Takasada pulled them towards him and knocked them off before running through the smoke. As Itoki and Kusetsu walked towards the office, they found Himura and a man waiting for them. Kusetsu decided to fight them herself, but Suzaku appeared behind them with a flame, and as he burned the ground, the flames formed a wall, allowing Itoki and Kusetsu to run off. Soon, they met the Kuga leader, Kidu, and Itoki asked him to stay off their property in exchange for his core, but he thought that wasn't enough. He wanted the entire world to himself, and desired to see all ninja villages burned to ashes. Since Itoki had no intents of killing him, he suggested waiting for his backup forces to arrive. However, Itoki began wondering why he caused his mom to be murdered, so Kidu told him that he was the George of the jungle, and chose whoever lived and died. These words made Itoki furious, and as his core began to glow, he tried drawing his sword, but Kusetsu stopped him, realizing that Kidu was looking to tempt him into attacking. So as they began to leave, Kidu activated his core and shot at them, but Kusetsu blocked it, and was blown away. Kidu continued shooting at Itoki, but he ran, dodging the blasts, and got smacked to the ground. Itoki rushed at him, slashing his sword, but the old man punched him away and blasted a hole in the wall. He thought Itoki was a baby that needed to get his diaper changed, but Itoki told him that he was a grown-ass man, who was fit to have babies of his own. As he charged at him again, the man drew his gun, but Kusetsu caught him, allowing Itoki to slash his breastplate. But he was unscathed and punched her away as he blocked Itoki's sword and knocked him back. They rushed at each other, attacking with continued punches and pushing with their fists in a show of power. As Itoki overpowered him, he hit him with a powerful blow to the side and another to the head, sending him into the wall. Itoki told him to repent from his sins and to eat Big Mac every day, but Kidu thought chicken nuggets tasted better. So as they started leaving, he decided to seal the debate by ending him with a bullet. But Takasada stabbed him in the heart. However, Shioni ran in at that moment, hoping to arrest the Kuga leader, but found him dead. So Takasada bid Kusetsu and Itoki goodbye, realizing that he would become the most wanted man in the ninja world, and flew off. After a moment, Itoki and Kusetsu began returning to the village, wondering what the future would look like for them, and if he could finally stick his little shuriken in her ninja axe. Watch this next video. Till next time, my fellow legendary plot masters.